Welcome to Morning Devotion with Ken Gurley. Devotions designed to inspire you on your daily walk with God. Here's your host, Ken Gurley.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to 10 Days That Changed the World. Good morning, MD family. So good to see each and every one of you. Brandy, Vaughn, Sue, thank you for being a part of this. Jim, I'm happy to see you. Dee, Tracy. This is a great day to lift up the name of the Lord. The last 4 days, we've been discussing how dark the world gets before the coming of the Lord, the second coming. And I think we do well this Friday, to remember the 10 days that changed the world, exiting death row syndrome. Welcome, Friday morning, March 26th, I guess. Welcome to each of you, Shirley, Sam, Janet, Linda, Glenn. Wow, you make this a very special day. You know the drill. Like the page, share the page, follow the page, and remain in prayer for each and every need that you can think of. Larry and Jerry and Sybil and so many other needs, just put them out to the side. We do have a host of needs. Welcome to this, how can I say this? When morning devotion started, a little less than 2 years ago, 20 months ago, it began with 21 days of prayer, and that's how we started this, and we just went 21 days straight. Well, we're entering in, normally this goes now, Monday through Friday, but we're entering into a season where I want to go 10 days straight and relive the 10 days, the final 10 days of our Lord's ministries. There's so much that happened in those 10 days. And this best weekend, we're going to thread these events together. And we're going to start today, the Friday before Good Friday, and go through Resurrection Sunday on this theme, day by day, seeing what Jesus said and did and how it can apply to us to change our worlds today. So yes, tomorrow, Saturday morning, Sunday, I know some of you are going to sleep late and you'll see it later. I understand. But get your family involved in this. And let's celebrate this incredible season, Resurrection Season. Day 1, exiting death row syndrome. So a year ago, James Allen Francis from Nova Scotia preached a sermon to youth in Los Angeles. And within that sermon were these words about Jesus Christ, a man who was born in an obscure village to the child of a peasant woman. He grew up in another obscure village, Francis said, worked as a carpenter shop until he was 30, and then for 3 years was an itinerant preacher. Never wrote a book. He never held an office. He never owned a home. He never had a family. He never went to college. He never put his foot inside of a big city. Never traveled 200 miles from the place he was born. Never did one of the things that usually accompany greatness. He had no credentials but himself. He had nothing to do with this world except the naked power of his divine manhood. While still a young man, and the tide of popular opinion turned against him, friends ran away. One denied him. Another betrayed him. Turned over to his enemies. Went through the mockery of a trial. He was nailed to a cross between two thieves. His executioners gambled for the only piece of property he had on earth while he was dying, and that was his coat. When he was dead, he was taken down, laid in a borrowed grave, through the pity of a friend. 19 wide centuries have come and gone, and today, Jesus Christ is the center of the human race and the leader of the column of progress. Francis said, I am far within the mark when I say that all the armies that ever marched, all the navies that were ever built, all the parliaments that ever sat, all the kings that ever reigned put together have not affected the life of man upon the earth as powerfully as has this one solitary life. I agree with that. I love to talk about Jesus. Left to my own devices, I'd preach all the time from the Gospels, the letters in red. For to me, to live is Christ. And for the next 10 days, we're going to talk about Jesus and Jesus alone in 10 days of how he changed the world and how it can affect me and you in this world that we live in right now. So today, Friday, March 26th, we began the 10 days. But not just looking at today, but a day 2,000 years ago when Jesus walked the hills of Galilee. In Luke 18, we read that Jesus took the 12 aside and he said, we're going to Jerusalem. Everything written by the prophets, it's about to happen. I'm going to be delivered to the Gentiles. I will be mocked, insulted, whipped, killed. But on the third day, I will rise again. How much clearer could he be? But the disciples didn't grasp it. Luke says it was hidden from them. They just couldn't understand the obvious. It wasn't hidden from Jesus, though. He knew what was coming. He knew what he faced over the next 10 days. Events would swiftly unfold. People would want to snuff out the life that this man lived. Oh, how he lived. He was life, and that life was a light of men. He was the way, the truth, and the life. And in his life, he showed us how to face a world gone dark and mad. He showed us how to fearlessly stand against that hatred. He revealed the secrets of inward resources. I am the vine. You're the branches. Yes, in him we live. I know Jesus came. He was born to die. He was a lamb slain from the foundation of the world. He knew his purpose. He knew he was to be about the Father's business of redemption, but he did not just come to die. He came to feel as we feel, experience what we experience, to be in touch with the feelings of our infirmities. Isaiah said this man of sorrows with no suffering, he had no pain. He didn't just come to die, he came to suffer, came to feel what we feel, came to live as we live. So Kirk and Matthew and Mel, he came to experience what we experience. As we face the darkest days of our life, we can find glimmers of hope and ray of light that sparkle brighter than the darkness. And whatever you and I face, he's gone through it all. Whatever you and I endure, he's already endured it, bested it, conquered it, put it underneath his feet, and he can put it beneath your feet as well. 10 days that changed the world. It was a Friday 2,000 years ago, and that's the day we want to talk about today, day 10. Where was Jesus then at the beginning of the Palm Sunday weekend, during the daylight hours before Sabbath would begin at Friday sunset? Well, Jesus was on the move, and he was moving with purpose. Coming out of the hills of Galilee, as he told the 12, he was headed to Jerusalem, to Judea. And when you take up the Gospels, line them up, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you begin to create timelines. I'm going to borrow from timelines developed by New Testament scholars like Alfred Edersheim and Charles Ellicott and Don Aykroyd's depiction of the final days. We know the general order of events, but for some we lack certainty. But what we can say is that on that Thursday evening, Friday morning during the day, Jesus was on the move, moving toward his destiny, moving toward Calvary. In the past 24 hours, Jesus had passed through Jericho. Two significant events took place there. As he entered into the city, he healed blind Bartimaeus. You remember the blind beggar that shouted, and he shouted all the louder, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy. Have mercy on me. That's who Jesus was. He was full of grace and truth. He was mercy incarnate. In day 10, we see mercy walking into Jericho. Mercy walking the streets of Jericho. Bartimaeus heard the crowd. He knew who was coming. He cried out for mercy. Our prayers, God's mercy, they're like the two buckets in the old well. When our prayers ascend, the other descend. When our prayers go up, mercy comes down. Just a drop of divine mercy, folks. It's better than an ocean of worldly wisdom and effort. Mercy and grace. Have mercy on me. That's what Bartimaeus cried. Mercy and grace accompany each other. Mercy, not getting what you do deserve. Grace, getting what you don't deserve. The writer of Hebrews said, let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence. Why? So that we may receive mercy and find grace in the time of our need. When you witness the boldness of Bartimaeus, you realize this is a man who recognized him in a time of need. Matthew Henry, in his commentary on the Bible 300 years ago, said something about Bartimaeus. It's staggering. Bar means son, Timaeus, son of Timaeus. That this blind beggar was named, indicating that he was not only blind, but he was the son of a blind man. That's what Matthew Henry said. The blind son of a blind father. Oh, is that powerful? That what we have here is a picture of you and me. We are sinners, born of sinners, passed down from generation to generation. The only cure is the mercy and the grace of the Son of David, the Lord Jesus Christ. Have mercy upon us. Jesus encountered Bartimaeus as he entered Jericho. As he passed through Jericho, he finds a man hiding from himself, Zacchaeus. To say that Zacchaeus was unpopular is an understatement. He was a tax collector. He was not on anybody's Christmas invite list. He not only raised taxes for the Roman government, but that profession was endemic and rife with corruption. They were viewed as shysters, dishonest, and thieves, taking from one, lining their pockets, overcharging on taxes. And if that was a stereotype, it held true with this particular man, Zacchaeus, because he would later admit how he had taken advantage of people. From the disadvantaged Bartimaeus to the one taking advantage and the advantaged Zacchaeus. On this day, day one of 10 days, Jesus ministered to both. He saw something in both. He saw a desire for healing in one and a desire for transformation in another, a desire for change so raw and so strong that Zacchaeus climbed a tree to see Jesus. And when Jesus stopped, maybe the crowd whispered his name saying, "That's Zacchaeus." But could also be evidence of his omniscience. Jesus didn't ask his name. He called his name. He knows you. He knows me. He said, "Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to stay at your house today." And the man came down, welcomed him gladly. The name Zacchaeus, it means pure and innocent. And that's not who Zacchaeus was BC, before Christ. He was not living up to his identity, his destiny. Jesus gave him a chance to start over. And as I read those two stories, on day one of the final 10 days of his ministry, something just hits me. And it touches me so very strong. I think it's what Jesus said to Zacchaeus. He said, "I must come to your house this day." This day. Day one of the final 10 days of my ministry on earth. 10 days to change the world. So he said, "This day, Zacchaeus, I got to come to your house on this day." Isn't this something that amazes us about Jesus? He would risk his own pristine, sterling reputation to eat with a sinner. He would self-identify with the most despised in society. But something else amazes me. As we mentioned at the outset, Jesus had signaled to those closest to him, "I'm going to Jerusalem. I'm going to be mocked. I'm going to be scorned. I'm going to be flogged. I'm going to be killed." What would you do if you had that knowledge? It's called the death row syndrome, or the death row phenomena, or psychology, found in prisons amongst the prisoners on death rows. They know they are soon to die. They're waiting to die. The sentence is passed. The execution date set. And they are awaiting their appointment with the grim reaper. The phenomena, isolation, it's common. Even if they're not physically put in isolation, they want to be alone. Despair, it's part of that death row syndrome. Suicide, 10 times more common. Some even volunteer for early execution. Contrast that with Jesus Christ. He already knew he was about to die. Did he isolate? No. He was with the 12. He was with the crowds at Jericho. He was interacting, connecting, inviting himself over to Zacchaeus' home. He was healing. He was encouraging. He was calling forth people's destiny. He was teaching. He was saving. On that same day, we read that he blessed the children on that day. He was focused not on the next few days and the suffering. He was focused on a future, a brighter tomorrow, not on the world passing, not on his life passing, but there is a brighter day and a brighter world to come. I'm not a psychologist, not a sociologist, not a social scientist. I'm just an observer, a watcher, a watchman. And here's what I can say. I just can say, attuning to this generation and absorbing how people are feeling right now, what is so atypical, what is so extraordinary, what is so supernatural about day one of those 10 final days is that Jesus Christ resisted the death row syndrome. He exited death row. And he spoke and acted in ways contrary to the laws of human nature, broke the mold. It's called the sword of Damocles. Damocles was a courtier of Dionysus, a tyrant in Sicily, 4 centuries before Christ. According to the legend, Damocles spoke glowingly of how happy his king must be. So the king invited the courtier to a banquet. But suspended over the courtier's head was a sword held by a single thread. And from that we get the expression, the sword of Damocles, that there's a sense of doom and a foreboding hanging over people of power and authority. But with Jesus, you don't sense that. Knowing that his crucifixion was only a week away, on that Friday, the Friday before Good Friday, Jesus said, I'm going to show you how to live even when you're on death row. I'm going to show you when the threat of death hangs over you like a sword over your head. I'm going to show you how to live. Can you see the similarity to our day? We've endured what's been called a seminal event, a cataclysmic, once-in-a-lifetime, reshaping, reordering of events. We can say it isn't so. We can say it hasn't affected, but it has. Our demeanor, our bearing, our thoughts, our emotions, our relationships, our viewpoints, our opinions. This past year has worked its way into the warp and woof and the fabric of our beings, recalibrating every decision, modifying our understandings, reshaping our view of life, our view of family, our view of home, our view of career. If the Lord tarries his coming, in the years to come, we'll probably see more how this last year has affected us. The 1,001 alterations to our souls, our minds, our thoughts, our attitude. But isn't that the miracle of day one? That on the Friday before Good Friday, Jesus didn't isolate. He walked. He associated. He ministered. He lived. He laughed. He loved. He blessed the next generation. One thing I mentioned yesterday about the world of Noah and Lot that prefigured the second coming of Jesus was the normalcy of their daily activities. They were planting and building and marrying and giving in marriage, living life. Listen to me. On the eve of the second coming, don't permit yourself to be isolated, hiding in a corner, despairing for life itself. Because on this day, more than any other, our light is needed in him, in Jesus' life, and that life is the light of men, and it shows us how to live in this moment, in this hour. Don't hide, Morning Devotion family. Don't closet away, Trina and Lucy and Leah. Don't hide. Tim, don't hide. Connect, don't isolate. Minister, don't cloister away. Let that light shine, knowing that Jesus endured what we endured, and to a degree that we find difficult to even imagine. And regardless of what season we are marching into, no matter how deep and dark our valley, that Jesus walked that valley before us. Does that comfort you? It does me. I think of people right now in the hospitals. I can name them, so can you. As pastors, we're just still limited, and family members going in there. There are people with difficult medical conditions. So much routine self-care testing, diagnosis went by the wayside during pandemics. Checkups, diagnostics, elective surgeries, and procedures all shuffled and deprioritized. Mild issues became serious, and serious situations became acute, and people are struggling with their lives and their well-being. But remember, we're going to exit death row syndrome. We're going to exit. We're not going to sit around waiting for our demise. Jesus is our example. We are to follow in his steps. He knew exactly what he was facing, that it was going to be a cruel death. But on the Friday, 1 week before Good Friday, he said, I'm going to show you how to live in the darkest time of your life. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly, that you can live it and live it to the fullest in the darkest of nights, that you can exit the death row syndrome. You may be struggling accepting a situation. You prayed about it. You got one of those answers, no, I'm not going to remove the thorn, but my grace will see you through. Jesus, remember, Jesus knows how you feel. It's going to be revealed in days to come. You prayed a cup would pass. It didn't. But who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. Listen to me, morning devotion family. You listen to me very carefully. What you can't enjoy, you can endure. Oh, yes, you can. Jesus taught us that. He taught us how to live. Maybe you're facing a betrayal. Jesus did. Maybe somebody's taken something precious from you. Jesus was stripped of his belongings, but only after he made of himself no reputation and laid aside his divine prerogatives. Remember Jesus. Remember Jesus on day one of 10 days that changed the world, that he showed us. He invited us. He showed mercy, invited change, and he blessed others. And Kim and Joy and Roy and Edna, isn't that what we should do? Live life without thought of tomorrow. Give yourself today without reservation. If you were 1 week from your death, that's where Jesus was on this first day. 1 week from his death, you can give, you can live through the darkest time of history because you're going to walk as he walked. You're going to live as he lived. Because that one solitary life is living his life in you, and it's being replicated again and again in our world and in our moment. I'm just telling you, morning devotion family. I'm telling you, the last 4 days I've painted a dark world. And that is the world that Jesus painted for us, the day that we're living in right now, the day of deception and lawlessness. It's a day like none other so far as fright and fierce immorality. It's a dark day that we're living in. But what Jesus showed us on day 1 week from Calvary, on the Friday before Good Friday, knowing that he would die in 7 days, he said, I'm going to show you how to live in a dark world. Give grace. Show mercy, bless others, minister, heal, call people to their destiny. That's our role. Even in this dark day, God has given something to me and you. Oh, can I get a witness to that? Amanda, Hope, Tiffany, Christy, I just feel the presence of the Lord here. Here's what I need you to do, because we are going into an atypical day tomorrow for morning devotion. Share this. Get your family involved. We're going into a sacred season. I know some just say definitively, we know exactly when Jesus was born. I'm not really so sure that December 25 day, but we do know that this season is when he was lifted up on Calvary. He was buried and he rose again. We're moving into a special season that I believe can break the spell of a fierce pandemic year, 10 days that'll change the world back then, and it'll change your world today. Invite others, share, follow the page, and God bless you. By the grace of God, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday morning. Amen.
Thank you for listening to Morning Devotion with Ken Gurley. Join us next time for another inspiring devotion. To support this ministry, please visit firstchurch.com/give.